Let's go over a few ways you can choose to repair this and why I'm going to start with what I am. So the first thing you do is look around the garage to see what you have. I had some 3/8 clear line. This is way too thick for that line. I also had some flimsier line. Okay, don't pick up any crap you find in your garage. That's not going to work. I picked up this bundle of 1/4 inch clear line. Okay, a lot of people I've seen in VW videos, but it's places that are way less curved as our section. Okay, they just have random failures under the hood. In those places where there isn't much bend, I would say something like this is a go-to as a first step. But in our application, the what's it called, hardness of this hose could cause that brittle accordion hose to crack again if you just put this in. If you put it with no hose clamps, which is what most people were doing in the videos, it still has a risk of, say, slipping off or leaking, and the same thing, cracking that again, because remember, our curve is very severe there. So I did buy this, but I'm not going to do it as my first attempt. Okay, some of you could do this right away. And I also bought, for this attempt, if we do, 2 mini worm clamps. Okay, but go too tight and you'll probably break it. So I'm really trying to avoid this whole thing with these, but it could be what we have to resort to. And plus, it's going to look less OEM. It's just going to look like crap. Okay, so I'm trying to avoid this, but I do have the products in case you wanted to do this. So here's some more items I bought from the local hardware store. They have different amounts in the packs for the prices. So what we're going to try first, I bought 2 packs of 3/8 to 3/16, and they have 3 in them each. I'm going to try to double or triple up on heat shrink because it's going to look OEM, okay? It's going to look like that hose was repaired. And what I didn't mention was, I mean, the 1/4 inch stuff I just got in case we use the line and we want to cover up the clear part, make it look a little bit better. But the main point here is I don't want to cut that line. Okay, if we go clear line, see, if this heat shrink attempt fails, then I'm going to have to cut the line in 2 spots, put a clear hose, maybe hose clamp it or not, and call it a day. But if this does work, which I think it will, it can hold the pressure for the washer fluid, it's going to look a lot better, doubling up on heat shrink. So this is what I'm going to use for now. And to apply it, I'm just going to put a slit in each one, put it over the areas that I think we're going to have the leaks, because I'm not even sure exactly where the leaks are. Okay, and obviously I've waited a couple days for it to dry out, all of the washer fluid to be gone. You could use a hair dryer or something in that area, but it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where the crack is in that difficult to look at area, because the more you mangle around with that hose, the higher chance it is you're going to increase the size of that crack, and then you're going to have to use clear line. So I'm just going to use a barbecue lighter with, again, you got to have a decent touch for heat shrink, not to damage anything. If you really want to go super pro, like, see my finger, how it's curved like a C? I've seen these new heating irons in some videos that people use, which they put around the heat shrink, and it gives a very good amount of heat all across the heat shrink. But I use a torch most of the time to put heat shrink in sensitive areas, so I'm trying to really go, I don't know, by the book to a degree by even using a barbecue lighter. Okay guys, so I just said I couldn't find the leak, but you see right there in the middle of your screen, again, apologies for the lighting, it's a little bit fluidy there. Okay, dead center of your screen to the right of that circle thing for the wipers. That's my crack right there. This is an important part, so I may as well show you. Okay, this is exactly where it's cracked. That's my crack, so it's very accessible for the heat shrink to put it on here. So we'll put 1 or 2 pieces. I'll let you know what I do. Possibly the camera can stay on this area while I do the work. And if I didn't mention it, the reason I'm putting 2 pieces of heat shrink is because we're dealing with fluid. It needs to deal with fluid volume and pressure, and the reason I'm opting for heat shrink is because it will keep natural flex of the line. That clear hose does not have as much flex as, say, a piece of heat shrink would, and keeping this with its stock accordion line as much as I can. This is just my preference, okay? You guys do whatever you want. So this is the thinner one. I took out 2 pieces and I'm gonna slit them now. Doing this on camera is really annoying and it's probably not focusing, but just cut it like a normal person. I'm just trying to show for the real noobs who are trying to do this. I'm doing a shit-ass job because of it. You see? If this wasn't on camera, you cut it straight down at the bottom, man. I'm getting tired of filming crap. Okay, so after my terrible trying to float in the air on camera cut, I'm going to use this first. I'm going to slide it around, and I'm going to put this side facing myself so that I can make sure this side has sealed. But this terrible cut isn't going to work. Don't try to film a stupid YouTube video when you do this. Okay, on some never mind stuff. Don't point it towards yourself. Point it to the area that's most convenient to your crack. So if your crack is facing the windshield like most of yours will, point the open end away from the crack so that if there is an opening, that side seals the best. Because out of this whole heat shrink, we literally just need a very small piece of it to seal properly to itself, and that's it. You could have also cut this heat shrink in half, but I'm just going to do the full piece because I'm annoyed and I got to get this done. But you don't need that much heat shrink on there. Okay guys, so this is a huge B, words you don't use on YouTube trying to do on camera. Obviously stay away from your wires. But as you can see, I did the top and the bottom first to get it to stick a little bit without burning my own finger. Okay, now I'm going to work my way towards the middle there. But it takes a bit longer with the barbecue lighter, okay? Just be patient and don't put your flame too close as you'll burn through. Okay, it isn't going as good as I thought, but let me apply some heat from the other side and let's see if it works. Okay, so I gotta fold it down here. See, it didn't attach very well because of how big of the cut is and everything else. See, clamping it would be best, but gotta work with whatever you have. This stupid ass camera wasn't in my way for the internet. My god, this would have been a very smooth task and I would have successfully done it. But because of this, I might actually mess it up. Yeah, so I burned up my glove there a little bit. And it's easy to get close to those wires, so be careful. You really gotta work different angles for this if you want it to work without the heat shrink falling off in the process. And you also don't want to burn through the goddamn accordion, which I just did. Okay guys, so my fear was finally found its way through. I'm not gonna put another heat shrink to burn more of it through. This shit didn't work. If I swear to God, if I didn't have this dumbass camera in my way reaching over from the front and the sides with no sight lines, I would have been able to do this, okay? But it didn't happen because I didn't have proper sight lines. So I really wish I could have done it, but unfortunately I burned through the tube. So now I have to put the piece of clear, cut it and put the piece of clear line. Or maybe I'll just keep doing it my style, and this one has solved one problem. So I'm going to use the other heat shrink and now cover up the hole that I made here myself. And we'll see what happens. Then if that doesn't work, we'll go to the clear tube. See, I'm just using the lighter a little bit to push it in at the same time. But I have a bad feeling that in the most important places it isn't catching at all. Okay, I'm going to cut the excess off at the end there because I don't want to burn through the tube again. Alright, I'm not going to try to stick it on. Don't get lazy and do that. Okay people, this shit didn't work at all. Okay, so now that I've caused a bit more of a problem with the heat shrink, it's actually around the same area as the original crack, just on the other side. Just gonna cut it and we're gonna try to slide some clear line on there. Okay, so there's the piece that came off. Cut one at the crack so that you reduce your chance of ruining things. Okay, so this is the kind of tube we're gonna try. Okay, so I just twisted it in gently, and it seems like it's even gonna hold without a clamp, so I don't think we're gonna put a clamp on. But we'll see how it goes. Okay, we'll try clampless first and then we'll put the rest on. Let's see if I break it anymore or not in this process. This part is pretty tough. Trying to maneuver it in. So for other cars, this might be a beginner DIY if it's at the top, but because of how sensitive it is, and if you damage the rest of that hose, you're gonna have to replace it all going down. So the kind of touch you give on the hose and sliding the clear line over, you could crack that brittle heat cycled plastic piece of junk line. So be very careful when you're doing this with how much pressure you put on the clear line, how much pressure you're putting on the squiggle line, accordion line, whatever you want to call it. But I have to keep pushing both sides a little bit more still. I could have started with the shorter piece, but this is what I did. So it's probably going to be safer this way. Okay guys, so I can't get my hand in there anymore with the wiper cowl in the way and the fender. This is a lot longer than it was before. Okay, I should have put a way shorter piece, but then again, you do that, then you're going to be stressing that line at the bottom more and you have a chance of breaking it. So like this, at least I've added some more flex in this area, and it seems like this area can handle more flex, but only time will tell. But there is a bigger gap here than say the small piece that I actually just took out from the actual hose. So I'm not going to bother pushing it in more. If it's going to leak, it's going to leak. I don't know if I should put hose clamps just yet or not, even though I have them. I should have put them before. So you know what? No hose clamps, okay? We'll see if it falls off like this or not, because the hose clamps, again, could put extra pressure on the plastic accordion style hose. Okay, change of mind number 6992. I'm going to actually cut this hose right now while it's here, because I made the mistake of putting too long of a piece. And I'm going to shorten it, because when this hood decides to come down, this range of motion in here, stupid POS camera does not even focus, man. What is this company Canon, man? There's full lighting in this garage. Okay? This here, the range of motion of the hood, you can never know what's going on in there because it's going to be closed unless you're an ant and you're down there and you can videotape it, or you put a borescope in there, which is ridiculous for such a job. So I'm going to cut it shorter, and I'm going to slide the clear tube piece into the bottom one again, hoping I don't break it. You know, it's finicky crap like this why people don't keep old cars, I swear. Okay, so if you end up in the same situation as me, I'm actually going to keep the bottom piece, which is harder to put on. I was about to slide off the top piece and use that to put it in, but because the bottom one has far more risk in terms of cracking the old hose, I'm going to keep that short piece on, take this one off, and slide this piece into there, and hopefully we'll be fine. Okay, there's that. And okay guys, I mean, this is nowhere close to as sensitive as the coolant hoses, which have lines on them for alignment, especially on short coolant hoses. But what I'm gonna say is you still need to at least, like when these two pieces align or hanging in their free space, you need to have them relatively the same when they're going in. Don't give some odd twist to one and put it in there, because that again could cause a small crack in this very cheap piece of flimsy hose they use, which over time cracks. Okay, so let me take it in. This here is our final product. Okay, we got a bit of a gap there, which is pretty much the size of the piece of hose we took out, and this is what we're gonna deal with. This should be completely fine. It is a pretty good friction fit. Again, if it's not, we have the two small hose clamps that we'll put on, but it's holding pretty decently. So let's first do it with the hood open, and then I'll close the hood and we'll see if we've succeeded. And again, stay tuned in this series because I'll have updates for you as I keep driving the car if it worked or not, or fell off or broke again or something. And on a very serious note, for those of you thinking of being YouTubers, do not waste your time on a real camera. Just get a widespread, really good smartphone with a tripod stand, and it will focus 10,000 times better than this crap that should be 2,000 times better than a phone. So take what you will from that. Okay guys, with no hose clamp in this area, it seems to be doing fine, but it's hard to tell because the water starts, the washer fluid itself starts to pour down all over the place. Even if there's a hair of a leak from it, it's really not that big of a deal. Like I said, the clamp on the curve, when it closes, might actually be more of a problem than it will help. But we're only going to find this out over time, so just stay tuned and I'll update you guys if this fix ends up being permanent, or if we try the clamps, and then if the clamps don't work, we just do a entirely new line. But for now, it has regained its original status. For those of you who wanted a closer look, that's what I burned through when I was doing the heat shrink, and the actual crack was one of the ends of this little piece of hose here, which is where I used to cut through so that I reduced the chance of creating new cracks by putting too much force on it, because there really isn't any kind of clamping force on this hose at either end. You really got to have a good touch to work with this hose in this place on this specific VW Audi vehicle.